Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life.
This episode is sponsored by Grip. Got lots of people, places, and things to track? Grip is the easiest way for farmers to track anything important to their operation. With flexible QR code tracking, keeping digital records is a snap with Grip's operator-first mobile app centralizing alerts, reminders, electronic forms, and team conversations. With simple month-to-month pricing and no long-term commitments, Grip can transform and streamline your operation so that you can focus on what's most important, growing. For a limited time, get 15% off any monthly or yearly subscription at grip.ag/pricing with the code THRIVEIN25. That's GRIP.ag/pricing with the code THRIVEIN25. Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here with another episode of the Thriving Farmer Podcast. Today, my guest is Justin Pettit, the co-founder of Santa Carota Beef, the only grass-fed, carrot-finished beef on the market. A third-generation cattle rancher, Justin has taken his family's ranching traditions in a new direction, creating a premium, nutrient-rich beef that's been recognized by top chefs and national publications. Justin, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me.
So give us a little bit of a background. You guys are in California growing beef. A lot of people don't really think of California as a beef producing state.
Well, we do have some big, luscious green rolling hills for the cattle. We do. And then, this new thing with the beef on dairy crosses, there is starting to be a lot of the, these Angus Holstein calves coming out of California. So we're really putting a dent back in the market.
Interesting, because California is one of the top 5 for dairy.
Yes, it is. But we are we're a beef cow program, so we come off of big cattle ranches. But where we are located, we are in Bakersfield, California, which is the home of the baby carrot. So that's right. So we get the the waste product, the ugly carrots, the tips, tops pieces, and we essentially upcycle them into cattle feed.
Okay, so how did that get started? Because I if I remember correctly, that's not how your farm started. You were a normal, ranching operation.
Well, we've had the carrots since the late 80s. My grandfather tried to buy a stack of hay from Bill Bolthouse Farms, that was grown with recycled wastewater. And Bill said, "What can you do with these cold carrots?" And so we tried, like cutter cattle, which are, the older ones. Sometimes they lose their teeth. That worked. And then we grew that program, and we would buy, discounted cattle from sale barns, and we could put pounds on them for cheaper. But as the carrot processors grew, our ranch had to grow around it. So we're 8 and 10 miles from the 2 biggest carrot producers, Grimway and Bolthouse Farms. So our haul is our haul is very short, keeps the cost down. And then, once the baby carrot was invented, it really kind of took off, and we turned into a cow-calf operation, which we already had kind of, but it really grew. But we were able to background our own calves. So essentially, once they're weaned, we would take them to, 800-900 pounds, and then they would go to a feedlot.
Okay. And so, but then when did you guys come up with the idea or the process develop and you realized that the beef was just that much superior and different?
So about 10 years ago, my dad and I were making bred heifers during the drought. So essentially when there's no one else had feed, we could make pregnant females. So when it did rain, we could try to time the market right. And we did okay with it. But the ones that did not breed up or they aborted or, not all of them got pregnant, we, those were kind of a loss. We'd have to take them to the sell barn. We would grain a few out and sell them private treaty. And I'd heard of people finishing carrots, in the 70s, 80s from different smaller packers. They were going to like military contracts, but they essentially stop the finishing because the carrots do turn the fat a little bit like a yellow, and it's from the beta carotene. And the packers didn't like that. They want the meat all consistent with that white corn fat. And, we had to take a discount for any cattle that were a little too big or they had to spend more time on corn to convert it back over. But we tried a handful of these, like 10 or 12. And the first one we harvested and ate it on my birthday in April of 2017. And we
Mm.
went, oh man, this is good. But what do we do with it? Now we got to go to work.
Yes.
We're entrepreneurs. So we fired up marketing and kind of really dug into what other people had failed at that tried to vertically integrate, especially as smaller producers. And we found that ground beef sales were the big one because you can make anything into a ground beef, but you can't make anything into a filet mignon. So
Correct.
and there's more ground beef in a steer than there is anything else. And so we found a really good ground beef customer and essentially grew with them. And then we were long on steaks, which they say is a good problem to have. And so we had to find
Yeah.
some other distributors, and that led us into the win in Las Vegas, and that caught on really well. They even came out to the ranch and did a cool photo shoot with us. And the gal who wrote
Yep.
the story, she sold it to Food and Wine, and that's what
Okay.
the beginning of our launch was.
Yeah. All right. The whole time you've been talking, I've been searching Google Earth or Google Maps for fields of carrots, and I finally found them.
Oh, okay.
Out in
Okay.
Bakersfield. Yes. Yeah. But also, there's a tremendous amount of, is it almond trees or what's the trees that are common out there?
There's a lot of almonds and a lot of
Okay.
pistachios.
Okay. So maybe
The
it's pistachios. Yeah.
Yeah, the almond hulls, they're a decent byproduct for a lot of the dairy guys will mix them in as kind of a supplement for dry cow hay. We don't use
Yep.
them. We have a lot of clean, healthy eating
Mm-hmm.
in our customer base. Folks with celiac or autoimmune. And so we
Yes.
try to keep things with the pesticides off of them. Carrots are grown underground,
Gotcha.
so they're not as
Yeah.
hammered by the pesticides.
Gotcha. Okay. And so talk a little bit then about because the nutrients profile with this beef is different too. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so you actually feel really good after you eat it. The carrots are so high in like beta carotene and the B vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
We had some of our ground beef tested, and we use a 70/30 ground beef because it helps us use kind of a nose to tail with the animal, and we can get away with that
Mm-hmm.
because the viscosity of the fat in it is so light because of the carrot water.
Okay.
And so we've tested it, and it's actually, the exact test were 80% of your daily B12 will come from 4 ounces of our ground beef.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, you feel good after you eat it. We still get to be a verified grass-fed program. So cattle, when they get their energy from either a starch or a sugar, and starch would be
Okay.
like grain, some guys can use potato byproduct, or the sugar, which would be a natural grass or even these carrots. It's a slower gain, but that combined with them being able to move around, because we're a free range concept, they move around in the hills.
Okay.
That
Yep.
actually gets into the muscles, and it makes an amazing flavor profile.
Yeah. And you guys sent us some beef, and that it was very, very good. I was really amazed at kind of like it's not your normal beef at all. The color is different. The flavor profile, it was very, very juicy. I think that was probably the biggest thing that we noticed of it, just compared to like a regular a beef.
Yeah, and that's because carrots are about 90% water. And so if a cow's going to eat 15 pounds of grain in a day, it's got to eat
Hmm.
150 pounds of carrots to get that same 15 pounds of dry matter. They love it though. Like, they come
Gotcha.
running off the
Yeah.
hills for this. They love it. But what it does
Yeah.
is it gets into that muscle tissue and it stretches it and makes it kind of elastic. That's why the meat's so tender. There's less chews, and it's
Mm.
full of
Okay.
moisture like a water balloon. So when you bite into it, you kind of get that pop in your mouth like a berry sensation, when you
Yeah.
eat it.
Okay, so then talk a little bit about like what the lifestyle for these cows are. Obviously, they're born, and is it they all on the hills for the entire life cycle?
Yes, we don't go into a feedlot. We don't use like a mixer at all. What we do is we have hay that is grass hay available when our grass is low, but they're in giant fields. They're in anywhere from, 2,000 acres down to 20 acres when they get really close. And so the bigger fields, they eat native grasses, and then we bring in carrots. We'll start with once a week, and then as they're weaned, and then they would do 2 or 3 times a week, and the fields kind of progressively get smaller. And
Yeah.
and then because you don't want to once you start weighing them and working over them, you want to do that less and less. So we don't do too big of fields, but daily deliveries of carrots. I mean, sometimes we'll get up to 20 semi loads a day. That's 1,000,000 pounds of food waste, these
Wow.
pieces of
Yeah.
carrots. And then the grass hay that we feed alongside of it is actually grown with the recycled wastewater from the carrot plant. So we like to be
Okay.
this big closed loop model for, you would say,
Yeah.
sustainability. That word gets thrown around a lot. Regenerative's kind of the new one, but this is our take on it. And
Yes.
so we go through a lot of salt, believe it or not, because it helps retain the water in the cattle. They're eating so much of a wet diet that they go through a lot of
Yeah.
salt licks, but it holds the moisture in the meat amazingly.
Gotcha. All right. So talk to me about the baby carrot producers, they grow carrots and then they harvest the carrots. And I guess what happens is they sort out anything that's too small or just even the tops. And that's what goes to you guys, or how does that work?
Yep. So too big, carrot will get what they call a seed in it, where it's almost like a stem. So that's too big. Too
Oh, okay.
small
Yeah.
would be they don't make the size for the baby carrot. And then, I mean,
Yeah.
they're not grown as baby carrots. They're actually, you can get 2, 3 baby carrots in one carrot, but we get the tips, tops, the
Correct.
pieces,
Yeah.
the shavings, any of the
Yeah.
undesirables from the processing facility. They go into large trailers, and then from there they're delivered directly to our ranch, and they just go out on the foothills and they dump them, and the cows come running off the hills. They love them.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about then, so you guys process pretty close by and then does anything come back to the farm after it's processed?
No, it's not very efficient to come back to the farm. What
Okay.
we do, so we harvest down in Brawley, California with the Brant Beef guys, and it's about
Yep.
5.5 hours from the ranch. So it's a quick truck ride, and it's amazing Temple Grandin facility, very clean. Like you could have
Oh,
surgery on the
good.
floor of
Yep.
this place. Yeah.
Yeah.
And from there, and those guys are great. And I think that we're very fortunate to have a processor so nearby that works with smaller
hmm
producers. So we are what they call
Yes.
a toll processor. They will harvest, a couple loads at a time for us, down to even one load sometimes. And we can send them the schedule how we want them packed. If one of our
Yep.
customers wants, let's say there's 40 head on a truck and they want 20 cases of boneless rib. We do 2 per case. So 20 cases of boneless ribeyes and 20 cases of bone in. Then
Yeah.
we can actually tell them how we want it packed. And they will actually handle the trucking to the distributor for us and everything. So I've been able to, be horseback half the time and then be on a laptop the other half, managing everything myself because there's a built in model just for people like us.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, that's interesting. So like, yeah, so that is a major processor that like the minimum they'll take is a full truckload. That's kind of, but it just shows you the scale that is typically done in the processing world.
Yes, and but, if you get to the Midwest, those guys, they won't touch you unless you can, rent the whole place for a day, and you've got to harvest 2,500
Wow.
head. So it
That's crazy. Yeah.
the supply chain for smaller producers is very tough, as you know. I'm sure you've interviewed a few of
Oh,
them.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I listened to one of your podcasts the other day about one of the gals down in Austin that actually helped some of the smaller farmers, and
Yes.
the supply chain is wild, and it really wasn't built for
Correct.
small
Well,
producers to jump into.
yeah, if the USDA for years has been saying we want less smaller plants because we don't want to have to inspect them all. So they've historically, and this has been documented, made it tough for small plants to exist. So it's awesome that you guys though have the plant you have and are at the scale that you can go through that. But yeah, the cost of processing per cow for the small person is up to 10 times what it is for one of the big meat packers. So yeah, absolutely. All right. So talk about how folks can get this beef. You can just go through your website, correct, and get shipped to your door.
Correct. Yeah. So, we're very proud of the supply chain we built with our distributors, but here in the last 18 months or less, we've been able to launch our product online. And so they can get it at our
Mm-hmm.
website, santacarota.com. That's SANTACAROTA.com. And we are
Mm-hmm.
able to efficiently deliver to folks in 48 states. And we've even been able to launch our ground beef on Amazon recently.
Oh, wow. So the other thing, if you just type into Google beef grown with carrots, you guys are the top response too. So um,
Yeah,
you can
I would
get
hope
that pretty
so.
easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So, but yes, that's you get it. Real quick, I want to take a few minutes to talk about farm team management. With me, I have Tracy, the founder of Grip. Tracy, you created an app that can consolidate team communication into one place. What gave you the idea for creating a team management app?
Well, I noticed even on small operations, there are always issues that slip through the cracks. Maybe one of your team members finds a tank is leaking, they write a note, leave it in the office, but it doesn't get noticed till days later when the tank is empty and the system is ruined. Or maybe you have a piece of equipment that's getting harder and harder to start. No one reports it. The day you really need it, you find the battery's dead. We've all
Oh,
had a
that's happened to
situation
me.
like that. Yep. All these little things keep getting missed because there isn't an efficient, simple way for everybody to have a voice and communicate those issues that are happening.
So that's something that really applies across the board for any type of operation. Once you get more than 3 or 4 people working together, it really becomes difficult to delegate and track assignments.
Right. So what we did with Grip is build messaging and translating capabilities right into the app so you can manage all your team messages in one place. And there's an additional capability for team members to report issues they notice on the farm or ask questions about a task. You can also track team assignments, to-do lists through the app, making team delegation a lot simpler.
Do you find it's hard for new hires to adjust to using the app?
Not often. The app is very intuitive. There's a small learning curve, but if you can send a text message or take a picture, you can use Grip. And actually, training a new team member is one of my favorite use cases for Grip. Too often, there's like one guy in the team who knows the farm like his house, and
Mm-hmm.
he's stuck teaching the same thing over and over to the new hires who come and go. With Grip, it's really easy to record videos that can be applied to any assets library that everyone can access. You can really cut down on a lot of training time.
That's really cool. I could definitely see that coming in handy if you hire people seasonally and need to train them fast.
Yeah, you can essentially build a training curriculum and make it available to everyone.
I'm all about training videos. Thanks for sharing, Tracy. What's the best way for our listening farmers to learn more about Grip?
Just head over to our website, grip.ag, that's grip with 2 P's. You can download the app today and give it a try. Get 15% off when you use the code THRIVEIN25, all one word.
So then talk a little bit about kind of like what's the forward aspect of your business? Kind of what are your thoughts, what the next 5 years hold?
Well, I think the Make America Healthy movement has really pushed us into the direct to consumer model.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a tough economy for white tablecloth, which is what we were,
Mm-hmm.
servicing Hell's Kitchen and some Wolfgang Puck restaurants and a lot of Vegas business.
Correct.
But we've really kind of leaned out of that. And if I could tell a story real quick, we were at this kind of like a carnivore red meat convention in Wyoming a few months ago. So this is the last summer, and we listened to a lot of testimonies and actually talked to some, influencers and people that have been affected by autoimmune or celiac, and
Mm-hmm.
we've been able to ship them some meat, and they say they feel great with it. And it's very hard for them to find even some like histamine sensitive where they can't have meat that's aged. And so we've been
Oh,
able to
interesting. Yes.
we've been able to fill that gap, and I feel like it's our duty to really lean into that. Healthy food is medicine, and we've been kind of had the covers pulled over our eyes by big pharma for a long time, but we can really eat our way out of this thing in a healthy way. So we, in the next 5 years, I feel like we'll be building out better direct to consumer models. We've got some subscription programs coming up, and we want to be able to really touch those food deserts, in rural America that our supply chain couldn't
Yes.
get to. And that is who we're after. We think that bringing our beef to the public is the best way to go instead of just waiting for them to go to Vegas for a vacation.
Yeah. Exactly. So talk about then the direct consumer model. People go to your website, they buy, and do you offer just packages there, or do you offer like they want to buy just steaks or just ground beef?
So the shipping part is tough, and we've actually been able to partner with a shipper called Delivered Cold, and they're out of Round Rock, Texas. So we will harvest and then portion cut our steaks into individual steaks, and we can and it'll go to their facility. So if you just want to buy like one steak or 2 or 3 pounds of ground beef, the shipping's going to cost more than the meat, so that's hard. But these guys have pasture raised chicken or anything else you want to add
Mhm.
to it, or we can. The minimum I think is $99. So if you want to do
Okay.
$100 with a product of ours, you can do just ours, and we have some great discount bundles. We have some barbecue bundles or what we call like killer grillers for the outdoor barbecue.
Hmm.
Some carnivore ones, which is very cost efficient. You get a lot of ground beef, some fajita meat with it, some steaks, and so our goal is um, to bundle and be able to get as much of this healthy product to the consumer as cost efficient as possible.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I see how you click over to deliveredcold.com and that's where they've got your product.
Yes.
Um, Very nice, very nice. Talk to us about, and I don't think this is affecting you. I think this is in a different part of California. I just recently saw where the state of California is changing some grazing contracts with a fair number of farmers that have been grazing on the coast. Do you know anything about that?
That doesn't really affect us where we're at.
Because you're inland. Yeah.
Yes, we're more inland. We've had some water issues though. Water's been very
Okay.
scarce in California, politically, some drought years. But the cool part
Uh-huh.
about our beef is we use less than 50% water with the carrots than you would on a
Ah,
conventional
yes.
graining because, like I mentioned earlier, all of the extra carrot water that's in there, they use a lot less. So I could tell you, like a holiday or something, when the carrots are really slow, the cows will go through
Yeah.
more hay or they will see them eat more grass. And then our water
Yeah.
they will go through more water. We can check it with our wells and how much they're on the water trough. When the carrots are
Interesting.
just, fresh load after fresh load, they barely touch the water trough
Yeah.
because they're getting so much of it. So I think the water conservation side for us, we've really been able to
That's
carve out that
fascinating.
niche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so when you say a holiday, so like a 3-day weekend, a Memorial Day, the plant isn't operating, and so you just don't get as many loads of carrots.
That's correct. So, but we plan for that. We've been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
So we have great communication with the carrot processors. So we'll actually like double, triple up on a Friday. And they'll run heavy, like a Super Bowl weekend or New Year's or something. They're going to run heavy to fill their orders. And then we'll take all the extra carrots and the cattle will actually, have plenty to eat through the weekend. And then it'll be a little slow like that Monday morning or Tuesday morning. And that's when we see the water
Yeah.
usage go up. But, typically we're
Interesting. Yeah.
7 days a week, low water usage and heavy on the
Hmm.
carrots and carrot vitamins.
Yeah. All right. So talk a little bit. Let's talk about the business side of your operation. How many team members do you have in the operation?
We run a skeleton crew, so we keep about
Yeah.
4 or 5 cowboys around. My
Hmm.
dad is day to day hands on the ranch. I'm off and on, and then I'm out there kind of telling our story. So very minimum,
Hmm.
it's just cowboys, and we try to sub everything else out as far as trucking, the processing, even like we mentioned, partnering with a shipper because some days you could have 30 orders and then the next day you have no orders. And so to try to staff for
Hmm.
that's really tough. So we keep ourselves spread thin, but no one lets any grass grow under them.
Absolutely. All right. And so then, so the cowboys are keeping the cows moving. I'm assuming the carrots just come in on a schedule with trucks and such. And, you're the one telling the story. And then I'm assuming you have people that are sorting the cows and sending them the processing.
Yes. So same cowboys. We'll
Hmm.
work up, let's say we're doing a load a week. We'll work up whatever's, the biggest ones, the ones that are ready to go. And then they will go down to the processor. And then they will harvest on like a Thursday and then we'll pack them on a Monday. So they hang just over the weekend. And then they grade first. And so, my computer's
Hmm.
going off at 2 a.m. during the grading. And the cool part about what we do is it we're verified grass fed, but we can still grade choice and prime. So the chefs love it because they can put,
Ah, yeah.
a healthy steak on the menu. And we still get to be the flavorful. So we have great flavor, but we're also healthy, which it's really hard to hit, 2 in 1 with that, but we're able to do it.
Yeah. So how long is it typically then from well, how many months are the cattle harvested at typically?
Wow. So that's a great question. We harvest,
Because for grain fed, it's typically much faster than grass fed, but I wasn't sure if carrot fed meant you were somewhere in the middle.
yeah, we're a lot longer. So it's about, I mean, I've seen the grain cattle go, 16, 18 months of age when they're harvested, and we are 22 to 24 months of age. Sometimes we'll push them out a little more. We'll get some better yields on them. So it's a slower gain, about 2.5 pounds a day. We get the question a lot, is it cheaper to feed them carrots? Well, per ton, it kind of is, but you have to feed them longer. Your exposure's longer. But being out on the hills, that slow gain, I feel like that's what really brings the moisture into the muscle tissue, and it kind of helps to create a new eating experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. So talk a little bit about, are you guys looking at expanding into any other like multi-species, or are you guys cattle is your thing and that's what you're going to stick with?
Well, cattle's our thing, but man, I got my eye on this chicken deal. I think that I really do, like, because we've had like just chickens around the barn and they eat the
Yes.
crumbs of the carrots. And I mean,
Yes. Yes.
we keep the eggs, just for we call it camp meat, for the cowboys, but
Yeah.
they do great. And I've been watching this pasture chicken thing really evolve. No
Yes.
promises, but I love the concept. Keeps the flies down.
Yeah.
I would worry a little bit about coccidiosis, like
Yeah.
the chicken manure and if it can spread any diseases. I'm not a chicken farmer, so there's probably one out there listening saying, "Oh man, you don't worry about it," or "Yeah, you should." But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
we're essentially cattle guys. I feel like
hmm
the carnivore diet's really helped us a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going on to the red meat, and we have a healthy red meat, and so that's going to be our focus.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't have a ton of experience with chickens. I have raised a fair amount of them in my life, though. But yeah, I think you could add in basically another species there with the chickens pretty easily. Are you super? I'm assuming your land isn't super flat though. It's more hilly and all that, which would make the management of the chickens a little bit more challenging.
Absolutely, it would, and it's full of
Yeah.
coyotes and bobcats and
Yep.
everything else.
Yep. Yep.
It's
So
the
yeah.
land that we're raising our cattle on, it's not farmable ground. I mean, it's cow country, rolling
Yeah.
foothills, there's rocks. Semi trucks can get it out and they'll just go dump on the hills. But there's nothing prettier than a baby calf and green grass with some orange carrots around it.
Yeah. Exactly. Absolutely. All right. Well, what else would you like to let our listeners know?
Uh, well, I'd like to try it because this is a brand new beef. I'm not saying brand new,
hmm
but it's a newer concept than most people are getting. Not a commodity beef. You can find it at our website, santacarota.com, SantaCarota.com, and just keep following us. We really believe in transparency and telling our story. I think there's a lot of brands out
hmm
there that are pushed by some of the bigger beef companies, but they don't tell the story every day. And if people want to follow us on social media at Santa Carota Beef, um, on our X account or Instagram, they can see our day to day. They can really get their minds wrapped around our operation because we do believe that transparency is a big thing. And even we
hmm
appreciate podcasts like this to be able to tell our story. And there are plenty of stories of great farmers and ranchers out there that we should be supporting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely cool. I mean, yeah, if you go to your Instagram, you can see those piles of carrots. It's something else to see. Tell me, what is your favorite part of the operation? Like if you and in the operation, what do you think your favorite part is?
Well, I'm pretty proud of the supply chain we've built.
Yeah.
Being able to get product to the East Coast, from the Northeast to, we have another distributor we just started with down in Georgia, a lot of the West Coast. It's been fun building that, even to the e-commerce.
hmm
But hey, man, I grew up on a horse. My favorite part's probably branding day. When all the neighbors
Okay.
come and we get to brand
Yeah.
calves and barbecue and those are the fun ones, and just bringing my kids out on the ranch. I think that so many
hmm
kids don't get to grow up that way anymore, and just
Correct.
being
Yeah.
able to bring my kids have gone to sales meetings. My kids have moved cows with me, and so them watching them watching us build and grow this business as a production ag startup, being on the ranch and building a supply chain and sales, I think that's probably my favorite part.
Very cool. All right. Well, Justin, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Absolutely. Hey, Michael, thank you for having me.
Yes. And it's santacarota.com. So SantaCarota.com. Or as I said, just type in who feeds their cows carrots and your website will come up.
Yep. Yes, it is. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
So there you have it. Another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer Podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.